This is going to be a bit different from the usual stuff you read around here. I know there's no shortage of stories about people getting cheated on, blindsided by someone they thought they could trust. But my story? It's not exactly that. See, I wasn't just the guy who got screwed over. In the end, I did some screwing over too. But let me tell you something, before you start thinking I'm just another asshole, I didn't get there on my own. I was pushed, pulled, and practically shoved into doing what I did. It wasn't entirely my fault. But hey, let's back up a bit. We gotta start somewhere, right? I figure a little context won't hurt before I dive into the madness. First off, I'm just an average guy. I'm not some genius, not some hero in a movie. I'm just a dude working a regular job, trying to make ends meet and keep some kind of balance in life. I've never been the type to seek out drama. I'm steady, predictable even. That's just who I am. Always have been. My name's not important, but my wife's? Lisa? Now, she's a different story. Lisa was the type of woman people noticed. She had this presence, you know? Like she could walk into a room, and instantly, everyone was drawn to her. It wasn't that she was drop-dead gorgeous, though she was beautiful. It was more about how she carried herself. Confident, quick-witted, sharp as a knife when it came to conversation. She had this energy that made people gravitate toward her. Hell, even when we first met, I was in awe of how easy things seemed for her. People just liked being around her. And why wouldn't they? She was funny, charming, and had this infectious laugh that could make you smile even if you were having the worst day. And her sense of humor? That was something else. She could roast you, tear you down with a single line, and somehow, you'd still end up laughing. It was like magic. Everyone loved her for it, her friends, our family, even my buddies. And I'll admit, in the beginning, I did too. But over time, that same humor? It started to wear thin on me. It's hard to laugh along when the joke's always at your expense, you know? She was the funny one in our relationship. Me? Not so much. I was the serious one, the guy who kept everything running smoothly, who made sure we stayed grounded. And for a while, that dynamic worked. She brought the spark, and I kept the fire from burning down the house. But her humor? Well, that humor came back to bite me in the ass. It played one hell of a cruel joke on me. So evil, so twisted, that I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't lived it. You won't either. Not until you hear what went down. It was just a regular evening. Nothing special. I came home from work, exhausted like usual. The grind was starting to get to me, but that's life, right? You work, you come home, you eat, you sleep, repeat. But that night, when I walked through the door, the house smelled warm, inviting. Dinner was already on the table. Something Italian, I think. She knew I liked pasta, so she'd always whip it up on nights like this when she felt in a good mood. The candles were lit, Lisa had a thing for atmosphere, and there she was, smiling like nothing was wrong, like everything was just peachy. We sat down to eat. We talked, like we always did. Just regular stuff. I asked her how her day was, she asked me about mine. She laughed at something stupid I said, her laugh, that damn laugh. I remember thinking everything was fine. I wasn't really paying attention to her mood, I was too busy stuffing my face, trying to shake off the stress of the day. But as the conversation went on, something in the air changed. It was subtle at first, just a shift in the way she was sitting, how her voice dipped a little. I noticed her leaning back in her chair, her eyes kind of narrowing. And then she hit me with it, out of nowhere. You know, she started, her voice casual, like she was talking about the weather, I've been feeling a little tired of us lately. I looked up from my plate, confused, like maybe I hadn't heard her right. Tired? I repeated, my fork hovering midair. What do you mean, tired? She sighed, like this was the most normal conversation in the world. I don't know, it's just, things have been feeling a bit stale. Like we're stuck, you know? I didn't know. I was completely blindsided. We weren't fighting, we weren't in some kind of deep rut, at least, not that I could see. We had our routines, sure, but I thought we were solid. Married for 7 years, you'd think we'd have this figured out by now. But apparently, I was wrong. So wrong. And then she dropped the real bomb on me. So, I slept with someone, she said, deadpan. Like it was no big deal. Like she was telling me she bought a new pair of shoes or changed her hair color. It made me feel better. But don't worry, I'm not gonna do it again. I couldn't process it. My brain just stopped. Everything went quiet inside my head. The words hung in the air like some sort of sick joke that hadn't landed yet. Did she just say that? Did she just tell me she cheated on me over dinner? Casually, like it was nothing. My mouth went dry. My hands tightened around the fork, and I could feel the metal bending under the pressure of my grip, but I didn't care. I stared at her, searching for any sign that she was joking, that this was another one of her stupid pranks. But there was nothing in her eyes, just cold indifference. And then, like she hadn't just ripped my world apart, she stood up, walked over to me, and kissed me on the lips. A quick, meaningless kiss. "Good night," she said softly, and without another word, she turned and walked to the bedroom, leaving me sitting there, completely paralyzed. I couldn't move. I couldn't even think straight. I stared down at my hands, realizing I had bent the damn fork in half. My chest was tight, and all I could feel was rage building up, filling every part of me. But instead of going after her, instead of demanding answers, I stayed rooted to my seat, fists clenched, my mind spinning with one thought: revenge. She thought she could just drop that bomb, kiss me, and go to bed like nothing happened? Like I wasn't supposed to react? Oh, I was going to react, all right. I was going to make her regret ever opening her mouth. But how the hell was I supposed to know it was all a joke? How was I supposed to know that her sick sense of humor would take things this far? As soon as she kissed me on the lips and walked off to the bedroom like nothing happened, I felt this surge of rage just burn through me. I couldn't sit there and stew in it, not with the way my mind was spiraling. So, without a second thought, I grabbed my jacket, threw it on, and walked straight out of the house. I needed to get out of there. I needed air, space, something to clear my head, but more than that, I needed someone to talk to. My first instinct was to call my best friend, you know, the guy I'd usually turn to when shit hit the fan. But as I was scrolling through my contacts, my thumb paused on someone else's name, my wife's friend. Let's call her Megan. Now, Megan wasn't just some random friend of Lisa's. I'd known her longer than I'd known my wife. We used to run in the same circles before Lisa and I ever became a thing. And if I'm being completely honest, there had always been something between Megan and me. Nothing serious, but I knew she liked me back then, before I got with Lisa. It was one of those things where the timing was never right. But I had a gut feeling, her feelings hadn't gone anywhere, not entirely. So, without really thinking it through, I called her. She picked up after a couple of rings, sounding surprised but not in a bad way. "Hey, what's up?" she asked, her voice casual, like we hadn't spoken in months. "Can you meet me?" I blurted out. "At the bar near your place?" I need to talk." There was a pause, a brief one, but she didn't ask any questions. "Sure. I'll be there in 10. That was it. No grilling me about why I needed to talk or what was going on. She just agreed, like she knew something was up. I jumped in my car and headed to the bar, my mind still racing with what had just gone down at home. When I pulled up to the place, I saw her immediately. She was already sitting at a booth, nursing a drink. Megan looked up as I walked in, her eyebrows raised slightly in surprise. "Where's Lisa?" I sat down, avoiding her question at first. "She's not coming," I said flatly. That got her attention. She leaned in a little, her expression shifting from casual to concerned. "What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." We ordered a couple of drinks, and once the alcohol hit my system, the words just poured out. I told her everything, what Lisa had said, how she casually dropped that she cheated, and how she acted like it was no big deal. At first, Megan didn't believe me. I could see it in her eyes, the shock, the disbelief. But the more she looked at me, the more she realized I wasn't lying. I could see it all clicking in her head. We kept drinking, the conversation getting heavier with every round. I could feel the alcohol dulling the edge of my anger, but it was still there, simmering under the surface. By the time the bartender gave us the last call, we were both pretty drunk. Megan, out of nowhere, leaned closer and said, "I have another bottle of wine back at my place, if you want to keep this going." I didn't even have to think about it. I nodded, and we left the bar together. Her apartment was only a short walk from the bar. We stumbled in, laughing about something I can't even remember now. The moment we opened that bottle of wine, though, I knew exactly where the night was heading. There was this look in her eyes, a kind of intensity, and I wasn't going to stop it. I didn't want to. It didn't take long. After a few glasses, things escalated. One minute we were talking, and the next, we were on her couch, hands everywhere, lips locked. And in that moment, I decided to do something I hadn't planned on at all. I pulled out my phone and started filming. Not the whole thing, just clips here and there. Megan noticed, of course, and at first, she wasn't having it. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice a little slurred but still sharp. She pushed my hand away. "It's just for me," I said quickly, trying to reassure her. "No one else will ever see it, I promise. It'll be fine." She hesitated but eventually caved. Alcohol, desire, and years of unresolved tension will do that, I guess. So, I kept the camera rolling for a bit, capturing just enough to satisfy whatever twisted part of me thought this was a good idea. Afterward, when it was all over, I sat up and told her I had to go. She looked at me, disappointed. "You're leaving?" she asked, a little hurt creeping into her voice. "Yeah, I should," I said, already feeling the weight of what I had just done. "It's late." She wanted me to stay. I could tell. But I wasn't about to spend the night in her bed. This wasn't going to be a regular thing, and I sure as hell wasn't about to complicate my life even more by sticking around. So I left. I called a taxi, and as I sat in the back seat, my head spinning from the booze and the sex, I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of satisfaction and guilt. I'd done it. I'd taken revenge. But had it made me feel better? No. Not really. If anything, I just felt hollow. Like the night had filled a temporary void, but it wasn't going to fix anything. When I got home, it was late. The house was dark, and Lisa was probably asleep in the bedroom, completely unaware of what had just happened. I stood in the hallway for a minute, my mind racing, trying to process everything. And then, without a word, I headed to the couch and crashed there for the night. The next morning, I could already feel the tension in the air. You know that heavy, suffocating kind of silence that just tells you something's off? Yeah, that was it. I tried to shake it off as I dragged myself into the kitchen, half expecting Lisa to be all sunshine and rainbows, acting like last night never happened. But nope. She was sitting there at the table, her eyes narrowed and lips pressed together in a thin line as she scrolled through her phone. She didn't even look up when I walked in, just sipped her coffee, but I could tell she was pissed. Not raging pissed, more like that low-burn simmering kind of anger where you know she's just waiting to explode. I sat down across from her, pretending not to notice, but I could feel the weight of her eyes on me, practically drilling into the back of my head. We ate in silence for a few minutes before she finally spoke, her voice dripping with irritation. "So," she said, dragging the word out, "where the hell were you last night? You came home so damn late, and you didn't even come to bed." I could feel her eyes on me, waiting for an explanation, but I wasn't in the mood for her interrogation. Still, I knew I had to answer, but this time, I wasn't going to lie. She had started this mess, after all. I took a deep breath, trying to sound as calm as possible. "I was out," I said flatly, not giving her anything more to work with just yet. Needed some space to think. Her eyes narrowed, and she set her phone down, giving me her full attention. "Think about what?" "Because, from where I'm sitting, it looks like you were up to something." I glanced at her, a slight smirk tugging at the corner of my mouth. "Yeah, I was thinking. About us. About how I'm a little tired of our relationship too." That caught her off guard. She blinked a few times, her brows furrowing in confusion. "Wait, what? You're tired? Since when?" I shrugged, keeping my tone casual, like it wasn't a big deal, even though we both knew it was. "For a while, I guess. And last night," I paused, letting the tension build in the room. "I did something about it." Her expression didn't change at first. She looked confused, almost like she thought I was screwing with her. Then she leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms, and smirked like she had caught me in a lie. "Oh really? You did something about it? What did you do, huh? Cheat on me?" I stared right at her and nodded. "Yeah. I did." The smirk stayed on her face, but her eyes were searching mine, trying to figure out if I was serious or not. "Oh, come on," she said, letting out a short laugh. "You're joking. What is this, your way of getting back at me for what I said last night?" I didn't break eye contact. "I'm not joking, Lisa. I cheated on you." Her smile faltered, but only for a second. "Sure, you did. With who? The waitress at the bar? Some random girl from work? Who?" I took another breath, knowing exactly what this was about to do to her. "No. Not some random girl. It was with Megan that did it." Her smile disappeared entirely, replaced by a look of disbelief. She stared at me, her mouth slightly open as if she couldn't quite process what I had just said. "Wait. What? Megan? My Megan? Are you serious right now?" I didn't flinch. "Yeah. I slept with her last night." She blinked again, then burst out laughing, though this time it was more out of nerves than humor. "Oh my God, you're kidding. You have to be. Megan? That's your big lie. What kind of joke is this?" I didn't say anything, just calmly reached into my pocket, pulled out my phone, and opened the video. I pressed play and held it up for her to see. She looked at the screen, still smiling, still thinking this was some elaborate prank. But as the video started, and Megan's face appeared, her smile began to waver. Then the sound kicked in, our voices, the unmistakable noise of what we had done, and her expression changed completely. Her face went pale, her eyes widening in shock. Her hand flew up to her mouth, and before I could react, she smacked the phone out of my hand with enough force to send it clattering across the table. "You bastard!" she screamed, her voice cracking as she stood up so fast her chair almost toppled over. "You fucking idiot! You slept with Megan? You're out of your goddamn mind!" I stood up, my own anger rising to match hers. "Oh, so now I'm the asshole? What about you, huh? You cheated on me first. You don't get to play the victim here." She glared at me, her eyes wild, her breathing heavy. "I didn't cheat on you, you moron. It was a fucking joke." I froze. Her words echoed in my head, but I couldn't process them at first. "A joke? What are you talking about?" She threw her hands up in frustration, pacing around the kitchen like she was about to explode. I said it to mess with you. I was kidding, you idiot. I didn't sleep with anyone. I was going to tell you after you cooled down, but you stormed out of the house like a maniac before I could explain. The room started spinning. My brain struggled to catch up with what she was saying. A joke? You were joking, yes, she screamed, tears welling up in her eyes. I was fucking joking. I never cheated on you. But you? You just went and slept with Megan and filmed it? How the hell do you expect me to react to that? I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. All the anger, all the justification I had built up inside myself crumbled in an instant. I stood there, my mouth dry, my heart pounding, realizing just how badly I had screwed up. Lisa, I said softly, trying to reach for her. I didn't know. She cut me off, her voice cracking. I don't want to hear it. You've done enough. Tears streamed down her face now, and she looked more broken than I had ever seen her. You ruined everything, you asshole. You slept with my best friend. How am I supposed to forgive that? I had no words. There was nothing I could say to fix it. I didn't know, I repeated weakly, but the words felt hollow, useless. She shook her head, backing away from me. Just go. I don't want to see you right now. With that, she turned and stormed off to the bedroom, slamming the door behind her so hard the walls shook. I heard the lock click, followed by the sound of her sobbing. I stood there in the middle of the kitchen, feeling like my world had just imploded. I wanted to fix it, to apologize, but what could I do? I had fucked up. Badly. And now, there was no turning back. After Lisa locked herself in the bedroom, I knew I couldn't just sit around and wait for things to fix themselves. The guilt was eating me alive. I couldn't get the look on her face out of my head, the shock, the hurt. But at the same time, I was still angry. Angry that she had even made that stupid joke in the first place, that she pushed me to this. So, I grabbed my jacket again and went straight to Megan's place. I had to tell her everything. When I got there, Megan opened the door, her face lighting up when she saw me, at least for a second. I didn't waste time with small talk. I told her everything, from the moment Lisa confessed her joke to the second I showed Lisa the video. And as I spoke, I could see Megan's face shift from confused to furious. You're an asshole, she spat, crossing her arms, her expression hardening. You set me up. You didn't tell me this was all because of some sick revenge scheme. What the hell are you talking about? I shot back, my own frustration bubbling to the surface. You agreed to it, remember? You knew what we were doing. Yeah, I agreed because I thought it was just between us, she yelled, pacing around her living room, hands flying up in the air. I didn't know you were using me to get back at Lisa. Do you realize what you've done? I've lost my best friend because of you. I clenched my fists, trying to keep calm. It's not just my fault, Megan. You were there. You knew what you were doing. You're just as guilty. She stopped in her tracks and glared at me. You really are a piece of work, you know that? I've loved you since university, and this is how you repay me? By screwing up my life? The words hit me like a punch in the gut. I had no idea she still had feelings for me, not like that. For a moment, the anger between us fizzled out, replaced by this heavy silence. We both just sat down on her couch, staring at the floor, trying to make sense of everything. After a few minutes, Megan sighed and pulled out her phone. I'm gonna try calling Lisa. Maybe I can explain, make her understand. I don't know, something. She dialed, but it went straight to voicemail. She tried again, and again, but no luck. Lisa wasn't picking up, and at this point, I didn't know if she ever would. Desperation was starting to creep in. I felt like I was sinking, and no matter what I did, I couldn't pull myself out. I left Megan's place after a while and went back home, hoping to try again with Lisa, to apologize, to fix this mess somehow. But when I walked through the door, the first thing she said to me was, "I already called a lawyer." She didn't even look at me, her voice cold and detached. "I'm filing for divorce." I felt my stomach drop. It was like the ground beneath me had crumbled, and I was free-falling with no end in sight. "Lisa, please," I started, but she didn't want to hear it. "There's nothing more to say," she cut me off, her back turned as she folded laundry like it was just another day. "You made your choice. I'm making mine." I stood there for a moment, trying to think of what to say, but there was nothing. I felt like complete shit. I had lost her. There was no going back from this. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I went back to Megan's place. I knocked on her door, and when she opened it, I asked if I could stay with her for a while. She hesitated, her eyes scanning my face, full of frustration and doubt. "I don't think that's a good idea," she said at first, crossing her arms again. I couldn't blame her. I had dragged her into this mess, too. She had her own shit to deal with now. But as I turned to leave, defeated, she called me back. "Wait," she said, softer this time. "All right, fine. You can stay. But just for a bit. This whole thing, it's a lot." And so, I stayed with Megan. The divorce process dragged on for about a month, and during that time, our entire social circle knew about what happened. Lisa made sure of it. She told everyone, every little detail, and our friends all picked sides. Some stayed neutral, but most of them sided with her. I couldn't blame them. During that time, Megan and I started spending more time together. What had started as a mistake, something fueled by anger and bad decisions, slowly turned into something else. We tried to date, to make sense of this new situation, but the more we tried, the more we realized that something wasn't right. There was this huge gap between us, like we were both too broken, too out of place to make anything work. She still had feelings for me, sure, but now they were tainted by everything that had happened. I felt it too. We tried to act like things were normal, but nothing was. Every time I looked at her, I couldn't shake the guilt of what we'd done. Every time she smiled, it was forced, like she was trying to convince herself this was okay. But deep down, we both knew it wasn't. I was stuck in this limbo, trapped between the wreckage of my marriage and this new, fragile thing with Megan that didn't feel real. And as the days passed, it became clearer that no matter how hard we tried to move on, neither of us could escape the mess we had created. We were out of place, both of us, and I had no idea where to go from there. Update: it's been a while since everything went down, and I figured I owe you all an update. After all the chaos with Lisa, the divorce, and that whole mess with Megan, I've had some time to reflect. I've grown up a lot, more than I ever thought I would, honestly. Megan and I, well, we tried to make it work for a while. We had a history, sure, and for a moment, it felt like maybe we could turn something messy into something meaningful. But the reality of it was, it just wasn't right. We grew up together in more ways than one, and for a while, we were each other's crutch during a time when everything was falling apart. But you know what really killed it? Our so-called friends. The judgment from everyone around us was relentless. People love to talk, to point fingers, like they're somehow better or above it all. They whispered behind our backs, made snide comments, and acted like we were some scandal they could gossip about at every chance they got. It was exhausting, and eventually, it just became too much. Megan and I sat down one night, after yet another awkward encounter with one of her friends, and we both knew. We knew this wasn't going to work, not with all the baggage, not with everyone's opinions hanging over us like a storm cloud. So, we made the call to end it. It wasn't some big fight or dramatic breakup. We just let it go. For both our sakes. Now, I'm in a different place, literally and figuratively. I've made the decision to move to another city. I'm packing up my stuff, getting ready to leave this town and all the memories behind. It's strange, but it feels like the right move. Like I need to get away from the mess, from the people who won't let me forget what happened, and just start over. I want to start my life from scratch. No more judgmental eyes, no more baggage from the past weighing me down. It's scary as hell, I won't lie. But there's something about a fresh start that gives me hope. Maybe this time, I can figure out who I really am, without all the mistakes and bad decisions hanging over my head. I'm not saying it'll be easy. Nothing ever is. But it's a step forward, and for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm ready for it. Here's to new beginnings. Update. Well, here I am, already settled into a new city. It's strange how quickly things can change when you really decide to leave the past behind. I found a job pretty quickly, too. I'm working in an office now, doing something totally different from what I used to. It's nothing fancy, just basic admin work with a little bit of project management on the side. It's a steady gig, and honestly, after everything I've been through, the normalcy is kind of a relief. I clock in, do my job, and clock out. No drama, no stress. Just the daily grind, and for now, that's enough. But, of course, life always has a way of throwing something unexpected at you. There's this girl at work, let's call her Anna. She's the kind of woman who lights up the room when she walks in, but not in an over-the-top way. There's just something about her. She's got this quiet confidence, you know? Not to mention, she's smart as hell and doesn't take crap from anyone. I catch myself looking her way more than I should, and I think she's noticed, but I haven't been able to say anything. I mean, how could I? I'm still carrying all this baggage from my past. The divorce, the fallout with Megan, it's all still there, lingering in the back of my mind. I can't help but feel guilty, like I don't deserve to try again. Part of me feels like I need to make peace with everything that happened before I can even think about moving forward with someone else. So here I am, stuck in this weird limbo. I really like Anna, but I don't know how to tell her. I keep thinking, what if I mess it up again? What if I'm still too broken to make this work? I guess that's why I'm asking you all, what would you do if you were in my shoes? Would you take the risk, or wait it out until you're sure the past won't screw things up? Anyway, I just wanted to check in and thank you for sticking with me through all of this. Your support has meant a lot, more than I can say. I'm still figuring things out, but it feels good to know there are people out there who've got my back. Here's hoping I can make something good out of all this. Update. I figured it was time for another update, and this one's a bit different from the last. I'm in a relationship with that girl from work, Anna. It's been going well, better than I expected, honestly. I took my time, though. I didn't rush into anything because I wanted to make sure I was ready. I've been working with a psychologist for a while now, really putting in the effort to work through the mess of emotions and heartache after everything that went down with Lisa and Megan. It hasn't been easy, but it's been worth it. The thing is, I realized I can't keep punishing myself for the past. Yeah, I made some serious mistakes, and yeah, it's taken a lot to come to terms with them. But I'm starting to feel like I'm finally moving forward, like I deserve to try again. And Anna? She's been patient, understanding, and just good. She knows about my past, and while I was nervous to tell her at first, she didn't judge me for it. That's rare. One thing that hasn't changed, though, I never did develop a sense of humor. Maybe that's just not in the cards for me, but I've learned to live with it. We laugh about it sometimes, especially since Anna's got that lightness to her that I admire. Maybe that's enough for both of us. Anyway, I just wanted to let you all know how things are going. I'm in a better place now, and it feels good to finally say that. Thanks for sticking with me through everything. Wishing you all the best, and good luck wherever life takes you.